Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 23 of Creating a New World, the show about the 12 Visions world, uh, uh, a world of wealth, health, peace, love, and prosperity that you can help create. I'm Bill Hunsinger, your host, and I'd like to introduce you to our panelists for this episode. First of all, we have Bob McCaffrey. Thank you for joining us today, Bob.
Good morning, Bill, and good morning, everyone, and I'm happy to do that.
And also we have Sage Katakura. Thank you, Sage,
Hi.
for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be here, Bill, and be with you guys and talk about this information.
Okay, as I said, the show is about the 12 Visions world, a world that author and entrepreneur Mike Hamilton basically described in his book Visions, and basically what he did was he thought about what a world without initiatory force would be like, and wrote it out in the form of 12 visions to describe different aspects of that world. And we're just basically talking about the world, how different aspects of life will be in that world. And also how we can all create that world together. So we'll start this part of the show by actually reading the 12 visions. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay. The visions. Vision 1, become the person you were meant to be. Vision 2, live the life you were meant to live. Vision 3, feel extraordinary every day. Vision 4, slow down aging permanently. Vision 5, land the job of your dream. Vision 6, build the business of your passion. Vision 7, experience the love of your life. Vision 8, have the body you always envied. Vision 9, become the genius of society. Vision 10, have everything you ever wanted via the free to soar geniuses and technology. Vision 11, enjoy nearly perfect health. Vision 12, raise your own little geniuses.
Thank you, Bob. Today the topic we're going to discuss is publishing. We're already seeing basically publishing is now going the way that the computer industry went in the 90s with the internet and all the tools available on the internet. Unlike prior to the internet appearing, where if you wanted to publish a book, you had to go to a publisher and basically share a majority of the profits with that publisher. Now there are many places where you can many places in many ways that you can self-publish, and therefore get the majority of the profits and only incur costs, involved in marketing your book and possibly places to have it available for purchase. And in the 12 Visions world, that will become even more so, and people will find more and more efficient and easier ways for people to publish and share their ideas. Excuse me. So anyone have any further comments on that?
Yeah, I love health, and I love the concepts of anti-aging and technology to help health. And I've gained so much knowledge by going on the internet and seeing that the published amount of work that people put out there. And not all of it's true, but I love how everybody almost has a voice and it can get directly found on the internet. And I've gained a lot of perspectives. Whether it's true or not is ultimately, if it matches with reality, is up to decipher that. It's up to me, but it's helped me along my search, and it's definitely been very stimulating. It helped my life directly from it. So I hope the freedom continues to. I want to promote the freedom for everybody to publish their own stuff as much as I can in the 12 Visions world. Would have that, it just would be a dynamic woven into it, which would be really cool.
Thank you, Sage. Any comments on that, Bob?
No.
Okay. Yes, I think the 12 Visions world would be a world of ideas, a world of the mind. Business will definitely be a world of the mind, and basically publishing will be a way for people to share their ideas and basically share the value of those ideas with other people and exchange value with them based on those ideas. And you know, even now, that's where publishing is heading, because you know, it used to be, you know, if none of the big, you know, publishing houses liked your book, your only recourse was to self-publish, which was, prior to the internet, a very expensive thing to do. You know, so basically, I think the internet is a precursor, you know, as well as all the computer industry is a precursor of the 12 Visions world, and in that it brings tools that allow people to, you know, to share their ideas and to basically market their values directly to other people, rather than having to go through someone else and share the profits with them. So I want to. Turned out the topic didn't have as much to go with it, which is fine with me. Usually our first section takes up a lot of the show, and we end up shortchanging the other sections. So I have no problem with moving on in this particular show. So we'll move on to part that seems to be a lot of fun for everyone, and that's Where's the Force? And actually, literally, I'm still thinking off the top of my head what the topic will be today, and
there's so much force to go around. So.
Oh yeah, there's, and you know, I'll mention here what I've mentioned off the show many times. I've been searching for a topic where there actually is no force, and I haven't found one yet.
Right. Wow, that's so sad.
It's unfortunate, but that seems to be the way it is. So I guess a good topic for today would be just to trying to think of how to express this simply, so that as opposed to we've discussed before about, you know, driving and the privilege of driving. Let's talk a little bit about actually driving a car, you know, on the road today. So, Sage, where's the force?
Okay, driving the cars on the road today. Just the other day, just last night, I was at a company dinner, and my brother was driving home. He works with me, and we had a great dinner, and then he drove home. And then he was buying. No, I'm sorry. He had the lights off on his car, and he got caught. The cops pulled him over at night and gave him a ticket for doing that, for driving without the lights on. And it's just that imminent rule of whatever they tell him, they pull him over. He hasn't. It doesn't meet with the requirements that he didn't really have any say to. He's forced to adhere to them. And I understand, you know, that's obviously, that's a good idea, keep the lights on, but they're getting $54, I think, for the ticket, which could be any amount that they choose. And there's a lot of force there. And if there was an organization that didn't like a business, they couldn't do force, they couldn't promote it by force. They had to more give you something, a fair value, to try to keep the safety of people having their lights on. Let's say we all agree that's a good choice. There would be a company that could have rules, maybe, and that people could voluntarily choose to implement them to pay for their service of them having a monitor system where they monitor the streets. And if they pull you over, you have already agreed to their if you're a patron of them, you agree to a certain fee or something like that. But that dynamic, just those thoughts could evolve and evolve into a very practical thing that works in reality with no force, and that's a beautiful concept, because then suddenly individuals are more free and they don't have these needless rules, regulations, and costs that end up weighing everybody down.
So another way to say that is that the traffic laws and rules are forced upon the people without their consent, basically.
Right. That's right. That's the bottom line in the way I see it. I don't know if you can cut it another way, but it boils down to that.
Okay. Anything else on that, Sage?
No, not right now.
Okay. All right, Bob. Where's the force?
Well, with respect to what Sage was talking about and the ticket for not having his lights on, what I noticed over here in where I live, they have some signs on the road that light up and tell you what speed you're doing. Okay, and basically, this is a good idea, because some people drive along and they're doing a higher speed and not realizing it. And having something like that, it brings your attention to the fact that, okay, you're going 10 miles over the speed limit and you need to slow down if you don't want to get a ticket. I would think something like that could apply with the light situation. You got a sensor on the highway, and if a car comes by that doesn't have his lights on at a time when he should have them on, you could flash a sign, your lights are out. Just to let the person know and give them a heads up rather than pull them over and have some cop give them a ticket for it. It's something I'm sure we've all done at one time or another. If it's dark out and you're in a pretty well lighted area, you can pull out of a driveway and get out onto the street and not even realize that you don't have your lights on.
Yeah.
So, that would do away with that initiatory force and eliminate a good percentage of the force where people get the tickets for that.
Okay, thank you. I agree with all that. Also, another aspect of it is nowadays we live in pretty much a surveillance society. Anytime you go out in public, you're basically being observed. More depending on where you are. But if you drive down the street nowadays, just about every intersection with a traffic light, you look up and there's a camera on top of the traffic light. And I can see that this would be for safety, but it's also a way to keep track of people, unfortunately. And there are companies out there that use those cameras to just basically take pictures of the license plates on cars all day, and therefore, they can tell where you've gone every day, And today we also have the capability of storing all this information, and keeping it for future use. Unfortunately, we live in a world where you really don't have privacy anymore. Even when you're just out driving in your car, you don't have privacy anymore. So, that's something to be aware of. I mean, in the 12 Visions world, there won't be any quote unquote public roads. Everything will be privately owned, and the person who owns, a particular stretch of road will have the choice of what rules to be followed on that road. And actually, and you will, rather than that paying a road tax or gas tax or something like that, you'll be making micropayments to use roads. When you transition from one road to another, you might pay 50 cents or something to drive down a mile stretch of a mile of somebody's road. And
yeah.
It's. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just that you might worry that that's like, oh, everybody has their own road and it's going to get chaos or too inefficient. It get more inefficient that way. But imagine a large company that does it right. They're going to start buying off roads and implementing their pattern that works, that people agree with most, and people get a more competitive road system eventually. Just like in businesses, you don't see a lot of you see development and forward progress with products and services, not a growth of inefficiencies, because people won't pay for that.
Yes, and of course on the other side of that is if a road is privately owned, the company or individual that owns that road is going to want to maintain that road in the best condition possible in order for you to be willing to use that road and pay to use that road. Whereas with the system we have right now, we have to pay for the road whether we, whether you can even drive on it. And a lot of the roads along the route I take are in very poor condition, and in some places it's a hazard to the mechanical, to my car to drive through those places. And it's, because the road's tore up, there's ruts, there's, the road's falling apart. And somebody that, a privately owned road, that person is going to maintain that road. Otherwise, people will stop using it. And, of course, eventually we can envision with advances in technology a world where we don't need roads,
Yeah, right. Blind routes that are going to be available, possible teleportation, possible, it's teleportation in some form or another.
Or even automated, one person or multiple person quadcopters as are beginning to be developed now, but they'll be developed a lot more and quickly and made more and more safe, so that even in the case of a mechanical failure, there'll be some kind of system to protect you from injury, and so the bottom line is there's a lot of force today involved in driving your car, but in the future, the need to drive a car may be eliminated. I mean, we're seeing self-driving cars starting to be developed now, but when the main thing is people don't trust, that you're going to be protected unless some person is actually operating the vehicle, and I think that's just a matter of understanding the technology.
Right. Yeah.
I like the idea of a sky car.
Mm-hmm.
Vertical takeoff vehicle where you can go wherever you want.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of instances where they talk about basically sky taxis that fly themselves, and it would basically replace the airliners that we have today, which and therefore we wouldn't, because right now the skies are so full of planes that it's, even though it's safer than being on the road, it's still not completely safe. And we could talk a lot about, in fact, air traffic control may be a topic for future discussion. Because to put it simply, we have an outdated system, and it's really being stressed by the number of planes that are flying in the air today. But we can discuss that at a future time. We'll go ahead and move on to the next section of the show, which is how we can create the 12 Visions world together. And we've been discussing the platform of the national platform of the 12 Visions Party, the political organization that is organizing the 12 Visions movement. And we're going to continue that discussion now. And as we discussed last time, I don't have it in front of me, hopefully somebody does, we are going to continue to start this section with a reading of the Prime Law. So if anybody wants to do that, they're welcome to. Otherwise, I'll
I can do it if you like, Bill.
Yep. Yeah, go right ahead, Bob.
Okay. The Prime Law, the fundamental of protection. The purpose of human life is to prosper and live happily. The function of government is to provide the conditions that let individuals fulfill that purpose. The Prime Law guarantees those conditions by forbidding the use of initiatory force, fraud, coercion by any person, or group against any individual, property, or contract. Article 1. No person, group of persons, or government shall initiate force, threat of force, or fraud against any individual, self, property, or contract. Article 2. Force is morally and legally justified only for protection from those who violate Article 1. Article 3. No exception shall exist for Articles 1 and 2. The prime law is fundamental, natural law of protection that directs all decisions and actions of the 12 Visions Party. The prime law may not be amended. That's the prime law.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Well, in the national platform, we're still reading through these section titled Split Run, and we're at the part titled Foreign Relations, which is on page 30 of the platform. If no one else has that set up, I can go ahead and read it, but if someone would like to read that, they're welcome to.
Sorry, don't have it yet. What page was that?
Page 30.
Page 30, okay.
Yeah, 30.
You know, I'm just about there. And, okay, so the section was on...
Foreign relations.
Okay, I have it right here.
Okay.
Foreign relations with America. Consider how the post-9/11 Republican administration agitated world populations and generated hatred toward America. Although America's military stood strong, the growing worldwide resentment, along with America's own Democrats and media, turning against the administration, ultimately weakened and undermined our military strength. On the other hand, the post-9/11 Democratic administration relieves a lot of that envy-based hatred toward America around the world, yet the Democrats' approach that heavily favors diplomacy over force ultimately weakens and undermines our military strength in the war on terror. Hamilton America functions politically and militarily through the prime law. That means Hamilton America is a nation of self-defense. That military stance of striking only when struck or threatened takes a lot of the growing hatred toward America and turns it into respect. A military not functioning through rule of man, not inconsistently functioning according to whatever administration is in power, instead consistently functioning through the rule of law. The prime law of protection brings forth a clear, unprejudiced yet unyielding message of strength. We are an unprejudiced rule of law, no longer a prejudiced rule of man nation that will tolerate violations to the flawless prime law of protection that guarantees our conditions for wealth, health, and safety. Our military will act strongly and swiftly, but only if the rule of the law, the flawless prime law, is violated. Sister America struggles under any administration with either worldwide hatred toward an aggressive Republican administration America or worldwide semi-acceptance toward a relatively passive Democratic administration America. Under both rule of man, American administrations, the eventual outcome is a weakened military. Respect dominates worldwide perception of the Hamilton American military, which quickly grows the best military in the world. Major weapons manufacturers come to Hamilton America. Moreover, Hamilton America zooms forward into weapons technology breakthroughs much faster than other countries through the great technological revolution. Business, science, research are not held back or prevented by cost-prohibitive regulations or political policies. Hamilton America and its businesses, science, and research are purely free, which never happened before. Therefore, only Hamilton America experiences the great technological revolution. Technologies race forward at speed seen only in the relatively unregulated personal computer revolution, a harbinger to the great technological revolution. The technological breakthroughs in all industries from health to weapons leave our countries in the dust, other countries in the dust, including heavily politicized America. Very quickly, Hamilton America surpasses the entire world in weapons technology. Hamilton America makes it clear that its superior weapons would be used if and only if the prime law is violated. Hamilton America is consistent about using those weapons in self-defense to put down any country's use of force or threat of force. Its weapons technology could eventually destroy any terrorist organization or any country's military. Anti-American countries back down and respect Hamilton America. Worldwide respect brings about the most effective foreign relations.
Thank you, Sage.
Sure.
Yeah, basically, our military today is being used offensively. Basically, we're not, and there's a lot of things that could be said about it, but we're not just defending our country. We're out there basically going after people that, I mean, we've become the police of the world as a country, and we've also become, I mean, we're as imperialist, but in a different way as Great Britain was in the 17th and 18th centuries. I mean, in the 18th and 19th centuries, in the 1700s and 1800s. I mean, we're in the early 1900s. We've got military bases in more than half of the countries of the world. I mean, we're basically occupying other countries, if you want to look at it that way.
That the cost alone for doing it is so high.
And unfortunately, the way we conduct war is indiscriminate. So if we go after some terrorist leader, we end up killing a lot of people around him, people who may not be involved with the terrorism at all, and that's what creates hatred for us as a country. That's what makes people angry enough that they want to hurt us any way they can, including just striking citizens, and because because we live here and we're part of this country, we represent the country. So we're a target for them because they feel that their non-military people have been a target from us.
Right.
And this is the world we live in, unfortunately. The only thing I can see is that we need to adopt this defense only, this protection only policy that says that we're not going to be there pushing America on everybody else in the world. We're only going to defend ourselves. If you attack us, then we'll respond. But we're not going to go out there and go out of our way because we might disagree with something you're doing. Any other comments on that?
We've been doing it for so long, and I believe, like, I come from the younger generation, maybe Generation X. I don't know even. I think I'm right after them, but I feel like the attitude for the military and for things is a little more loose than what it was back then. It's not the 70s. It's not the peace and love, no war, and things like that. It's a mixture of that, but also, I don't know, I feel like it's also responsibility for maybe understanding the validity with a strong military base, though, and then a lot of people that just apathy. They don't care. They don't care because they're too tuned into their own lives. That's the general feeling I get from the thermometers I get. I could be off, but that's what I sense now, and I feel like it's a great situation for change. For these types of ideas that we're talking about, which is finally, like you said, Bill, we run it so offensively. All I can look back through history, it was never, it makes so much sense, but it wasn't really identified and supported on a mass scale nearly. Even when the French had the laissez-faire type of philosophy that was generated for bits and pieces, and we had the brief after war times, those peace times where there's a little less force, I felt. Maybe after the Revolutionary War was all done and settled and America could flourish, it was left alone. There were wars and things like that. I'm not saying there weren't, but those are small examples of where I think there was less war, less less focus on that and more freedoms captured, especially I guess after the revolution when the Constitution was first put into place, and that the boon of prosperity did start. And this is just like all the 12 Visions world does is focus on why it did, and put in place the conditions for that to happen all the time. And there's a huge snowball effect that'll take place after that rather quickly, from people, having that individual freedom to go forward.
I don't get that the countries of the world got together at any point in history and made an amendment to their rules that, the United States is going to be the police force of the world. And it seems to me we're just putting our nose in a lot of people's business, and we shouldn't be there. We should let the people live their lives the way they want to live them. We live our lives the way we want to live them. And again, like you say, only have a protection-only government. Everybody has different ideas, different things they want to do and accomplish, and they should be allowed to do that.
Yes, I agree. I think we should have a true Department of Defense. It seems like when historically the Department of Defense was actually called the Department of War, it was a lot less offensive than it is now. But there are exceptions to that. I mean, our country started out as 13 colonies that were basically along the east coast of the U.S. And there were, basically, I mean, even when I went to school, and it was a long time ago in high school, a lot of that was glossed over. How we went from being just 13 colonies on the east coast of the U.S. to stretching all the way across the country to California and Washington and Oregon.
Yes.
And, basically, it was the times, it was understood that if you went to war and you conquered certain territory, then that was part of your country. They've been doing that in Europe for hundreds of years. And also we can't talk about how the country expanded without talking about the displacement of the indigenous people, the what are called American Indians, but basically the indigenous people who lived here before the Europeans came and started settling in North America and South America. And it's a really sad part of our history that we constantly made promises to these groups of people and then broke those promises over and over again. Not us personally, but our government made promises to these people and then broke those promises over and over again. And because as soon as a group of European people decided they liked an area, then we kicked all the people that lived there before out. Or if a group of people came and discovered a valuable natural resource, such as silver or gold or something else, then we went in and kicked all the people that already lived there out. And it's it's just a sad reminder that we've been that there have been I keep using the word we because that's what I've been taught since I was a child, but actually it's they decided that that their claims on the land or whatever was more important than the people who were there already. And it's it's been that way since then. The Spanish came in and conquered the southwest part of what is now the U.S., and then we came and we fought with the Spanish, and then we claimed that part, and that became part of the U.S. It's this isn't the kind of world I want to live in, where a small group of people, ostensibly chosen by the larger population, make decisions for us.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's a group of individuals is how it breaks down into.
Mm-hmm.
And men are flawed. If you broke down into individuals, still they'd be making mistakes like that, let's say, for their individual profits. But if you had law there, we could just kind of level the playing field and have it where we've identified humans' real nature. Humans are humans. We operate well. Sometimes we make mistakes. And we have to self-responsibly hone up to those mistakes and work it out amongst each other. And we only need systems in place that we all agree with, or we don't need them at all. So that individuals can keep that freedom to keep advancing. And that's, I guess, all these those tragic things that happen with America. It's I see it as good in some ways that America, spread the Constitution further, but they did it through force. And you get into the idea of these nations moving forward amongst another nation. If we were all individuals, you wouldn't have that. It would all just be a collaboration of people and justice for anything that was done against another individual, if needed. But otherwise, working in collaboration to just live happily. And yeah, we're going to need more room and things like that. And that's the only way that kind of basis, that concept of giving everybody their individual freedom, identification, and space, then you can work together to advance, to provide more for all the individuals, which would be space travel and all that potential real estate that we're going to need if we didn't have these nations that were thinking about limited resources, that they had to control their own and do maintain their own against the other nations. It would be it's much more dynamic, I think, when you identify that it's just a bunch of individuals all together on a planet cohabitating, trying to, and with all their needs and wants and flaws too, trying to live with each other and prosper together. That's you need something like the prime law in place, and something as simple and strong as that, fundamentally sound as that. Sorry to go off on a tangent there. But.
That's fine. I've looked at that, and I totally agree with that concept. And I've actually boiled it down to the idea that we can accomplish much more through cooperation than we can through coercion. That people like the feeling that they're doing something they want to do rather than being told what to do or forced to do something. Because people, when you force someone to do something, naturally they're going to try to find a way not to do it, and that's what happens most of the time when you pass laws that say you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to do this a certain way.
I had a lot of friends that they've turned to alcohol and drugs, and I wonder how they're fine people, but they just had in them a rebellious kind of inside nature, and I can relate and understand a little bit, because I feel. When somebody, we're creative beings, I once heard, and I find that it's true, because if you put a mold on any individual, they just would never fill it perfectly, because they're too different, they're too individual, and just getting over that fact and identifying it and keeping true to that, we should always design everything in that light, and we do it with clothes, and we're doing it to the best of our ability. And free markets, trying to fill that individual, that concept that you're just dealing with a ton of individuals,
Yeah. Okay, I think we can actually move on to the next section if you're both agreeable to that.
Cool.
Yep, I think I'll go ahead and read the next section. Let me take a quick. Yeah, it's as short as the previous one, so I'll go ahead and read that one. It's titled National Defense. In America, the budget for national defense competes with the budget for entitlements. Hamilton America sighs disapproval over Sister America's haunting internal conflict of spending her federal tax revenues on welfare versus national defense. Over time, that conflict causes a rising threat to national security. Indeed, over time, that battle of the budget, funding welfare versus national defense, puts growing pressures on lowering the priority of national defense. Hamilton America abhors the thought. America struggles with this undermining threat to national security. Over time, in a country increasingly run by rule of vote-gathering man, national security loses the battle. Hamilton America cannot fathom the thought. In Hamilton America, all government money, energy, and focus goes into the single proper purpose of the federal government, national defense, and the other functions of prime law protection. No budgetary conflict of interest begins to undermine national security as in America. In Hamilton America, every thought accompanied by life and death seriousness goes toward national security and justice. Protection is not only the top priority, it is the only priority. Nothing works against national security, nothing competes with national security. No such internal conflict exists. Focused only on protection, Hamilton America quickly builds the most cost-efficient and most effective military in the world. Hamilton America's military rises quickly, for the demand for peace and protection in the booming economic powerhouse very quickly draws forth the supply, the military defense. Again, in Hamilton America, the citizens, the luckiest and wealthiest people alive, demand and voluntarily pay for peace. To meet their demands, the best weapons innovators and manufacturers rise and thrive in Hamilton America. Those weapons innovators and manufacturers race ahead within Hamilton America's unprecedented great technological revolution. With the catalyst of pure freedom, with no political burden of interference, the ingenious creators advanced weapons technology the way they advanced computer technology. Relatively soon, to attack Hamilton America would be committing military suicide. Moreover, to remove threat of force, a prime law requirement, Hamilton America righteously and consistently uses its superior weapons technology to exterminate any high-threat terrorist group securing nuclear or biological weapons of mass destruction. That extermination sends a chilling message to all other terrorist groups racing toward more potent weapons. Once you violate the prime law by becoming a threat to Hamilton America, you will be exterminated. Meanwhile, poor sister America, held in political bondage, eventually gets hit again and again with devastating, deadly chemical and biological and nuclear terrorist attacks. Millions of Americans die. To me, this is the whole point. I mean, we live in a very unsecure and unsafe world. And, people try to say, no, it's not as bad. But, everything seems to be a threat. I mean, people are concerned about the Syrian refugees, especially the fact that a majority of them are men and not families or women and children, but men, and that's what you see all over the place. Now, I'm not certain about this because, you don't know how coverage of this is, how it's altered and framed and to prove a point, but that's what I've been seeing, is that a majority of those refugees are men. And some people are calling it, rather than refugees, calling it a Muslim invasion of Europe. So I don't know. But this is the kind of world we live in, where we're not sure about these things. Where we're not sure where the next terrorist attack is coming from. But if we live in a world where the government's only purpose is to protect us, then we know that they're going to protect us by either eliminating the ability of people to attack us in that way, or eliminating those people if it becomes necessary to protect us. I don't like the idea of killing people, but some people, make it impossible to defend yourself from them in any other way, unfortunately.
And with technology, I hate to say it, it opens up a door to any possibility for, I hate to cite like Superman. It makes anybody who's familiar yet the Phantom Zone, where they threw people into, and it was a space held somewhere in some dimension, and it had physical space, and you could dump your prisoners there. I know that's comic book, yeah, funny, but with technologies and free to sort geniuses, really like Steve Jobs and Tesla and Edison, free to advance technology consistently. That's a definite possibility. It should be, not too much foo-foo, as at least a potential over time. And then the amount of wealth that people have, there's so many taxes that we all pay, so many taxes in little bits all throughout life, and that money is getting taken from the value producers, and then it's getting redistributed many times to the value consumers that are just consuming and not producing more than they're producing, consuming more than they're producing. And that's just putting such a dynamic in this world. It's such a stagnating situation where crime and the will to do some of these evil acts, because it's so much more prevalent and stimulating than it would be in a world where the supply of wealth is so much larger, the opportunity is so much larger that people would be so distracted where you'd really have to be the evil person, with no motive except to be evil, for the sake of being evil and hurting others, to do that. And even then, some of those people, they have self-esteem issues. If you boil it down, I'm just saying maybe a small finite amount, and with the businesses and money so much soaking through all the aspects of the economy, you'd have businesses and services that would they'd find ways to build your self-esteem faster and quicker and easier, and so that problem would be eventually solved. Mm-hmm. It creates just an environment, very exciting environment, where the defense becomes, on two fronts. You have it where it should go to just defense only, and then also you have this dynamic of all the other wealth spreading through society, so that the need for crime and hurting people goes down dramatically. So it's an amazing concept that can create something that we're not familiar with yet in this world. But that's why we're on this show.
Yes, I agree. And to part of your point, if you count all the taxes, including income taxes, sales tax, other taxes, at every level of government, and then you count the effect that over-regulation has on the prices, which is a little harder to calculate, but on prices of the goods and services we purchase, well over 50% of our income is basically taken from us by force.
Yeah, amazing.
And imagine what we can do if we suddenly had double the income that we have now.
Yeah, and everybody, besides just you, everybody else had 50% more than income.
Exactly.
Exactly. Double the income that they have now. It's a mind-boggling concept, and the distribution of wealth would go out to things you want to buy. Maybe everybody starts splurging. Well, they're buying products and services in the economy, so business owners are getting more money now. They have less tax to pay, so the businesses are getting wealthier. Those people, they come up with this concept of evil businessman that was going to hoard the money. But if you look at reality, so many they promote it back into their business to provide more. They want more money and continued growth, so they pour it back in their business, and they come out with new products and services. And even the few people that do hoard their money and they're fearful of the outcomes, many more people can't hold on to money, and they'll spend it, but they'll spend it on something so much more that hits their bottom line in life, and it goes back into the economy where the economy can use it and use it towards just allocating it to what people really want continuously. The business owner it goes back to, or it goes back to a person that's working for it, and not this government or the whole society body that says we're just going to take it every year from everybody involuntarily, and we're going to redistribute it amongst the people that are most likely not to do anything good with it. The people that have been sucking it up for years, just so they can keep sucking it up, and they can also maybe keep us in positions to keep doing this process. And that's what I see in our current situation that's been going on for years. And that this is
Yes.
all changing that.
Yes, I agree. I would much prefer live in a world of voluntary exchange of values than the world we live in today, where we have involuntary redistribution of wealth or values, if you want to call it that. Uh, and also one other point I wanted to bring out from that section of the platform. If we have freedom in developing weapons of defense, then we'll have weapons that are much more accurate, and you won't have this situation where you kill a bunch of innocent or unrelated people in order to get the person you're trying to kill.
Right,
And that's the situation we have today, and why we have so many people angry at us as a country, angry at America, which as Americans we represent America to them, because we have weapons that are indiscriminate. That if we drop a bunch of bombs on a city, a bunch of people are going to get killed that are not related to the people that we're attacking.
Yeah, right. Wow, and it's just so much collateral damage, and just one person, if it was your mother, brother, sister, I mean,
Right.
the tragedy of that is just enormous if it was that close to home. And that happens in some countries every day with stuff that our tax money is going out to because we don't have the technology, or somebody made a silly decision that wasn't as best as it could have been. So you're dealing with that in this world. It's very, we can do something about it. We can really, all the 12 Visions Party and the Prime Law, really, that's what it all boils down to, promotes the capabilities so that you can have discriminate weapons, that are very exacting and very much more efficient at creating the most value, I should say.
And the bottom line is, if enough people understand this and agree with it, then it's no longer a utopia, an impossible dream. I mean,
Right.
I had a discussion with someone on Facebook at the beginning of the week. They had made a post that said, if you don't vote, you're a coward. And I commented on the post, I disagree. I consider it not participating in a corrupt and violent system. And then we had a big argument about it because they were Bernie Sanders supporters.
Oh,
And Bernie Sanders, is always talking about what the government can do for you. If you follow any of what he's doing, that's what he talks about. What the government can do for you. He talks about free education. He talks about free health care. He talks about all these things that the government can do for you. And I consider that dishonest because it is not really free. There's monetary costs, and then there are other costs to freedom to provide those things that he's talking about. I mean, he calls himself a democratic socialist, but that's still a socialist. A socialist is someone that believes that the government can take care of all of society's ills.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a really simple way of putting it, but that's what a socialist is. And so his point of view was that, all this stuff is wonderful. Look what we can eliminate all the waste, but he doesn't understand that anytime you bring together a small group of people and give them the power,
Yeah.
they're all human beings, as we've discussed over and over, and they're all going to use that power to further their own ends rather than, they're not going to help you, they're going to help themselves.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and we're just leveling the playing field, to give everybody an equal shot.
Exactly.
So to speak. But it's very well thought out, but very simple, just like some great things are. But it identifies those concepts, and once we get all on that same page, Bill, you're right. We can identify the value of that, where the fountainhead, so to speak, is coming from, where the value is coming from. And the more you identify those things, and so you know where the negatives come from, you can just promote where the positives come from, and logically it'll just escalate the value opposed to the negatives.
Okay, thank you, Sage. Bob, do you have any other comments you'd like to make before we wrap things up?
I don't have anything at this time. I kind of missed part of what was going on there because my battery went dead and dropped me off the line. So.
Okay, we're really starting to kind of run over, so we're going to wrap it up here. I want to thank both of you for coming on and discussing these ideas with me. I learned a lot, and I hope you learned a lot also, and I hope our viewers learn also.
Thank you so much. I did too. Yeah, every time I learn something new, and it really helps my thought process for the whole month. I'm just more coming up with new conditions, clarifying some things on myself, and hearing your view. It's very good.
And so, thank both of you. Thank you, Bob, for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it, and thank you for having me.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. If you have any questions, please send them to cnwshow@gmail.com. You can see previous episodes and this episode at www.tocreateanewworld.blogspot.com, and I'm working on a shorter link for that. When it appears, I'll announce it. And how can you help the show? You can like us on Facebook. Just search for Creating a New World on Facebook. You can join our Google Plus community, which is called CNW Show. You can support the show by telling your friends and family about it. You can also support the show by going to www.patreon.com/creatinganewworld and pledging $1 or more per episode. All opinions expressed on the show are the sole responsibility of the individual participants and do not represent the Neothink Society, the 12 Visions Party, or author Mark Hamilton. I wish everyone wealth, health, peace, love, and freedom.